For the last decade, marketing has been completely obsessed with the dashboard. Everything was about proving ROI, justifying every penny of spend. Well, I'm here to tell you that that entire model, it's not just outdated, it's structurally obsolete. So let's really dive into this, because we're not just talking about a better report or a prettier dashboard. We're talking about building a completely new kind of revenue system from the ground up.
So let me ask you this question, and I want you to be really honest with yourself. Is your media budget being trained to find spam, or is it being trained to find actual revenue? Because look, if your attribution data is mostly coming from those standard ad platform dashboards and those little client-side pixels, well, the answer might be pretty unsettling. Your entire media spend could be optimizing for completely the wrong thing. And today we're going to break down exactly why that is.
Okay, so before we can even talk about the solution, we have to get crystal clear on what's actually broken. And listen, we're not talking about a few little cracks here and there. This is a full-on structural collapse of the old way of measuring marketing. It's like the foundation has crumbled, and it's costing companies millions without them even knowing why. And here is the number that should keep you up at night: 30 to 40%. Right now, thanks to all the browser privacy updates, things like what Safari does, and just the huge number of people using ad blockers, a third of your conversion data, maybe even more, is totally invisible. It just vanishes. Poof. It's a massive, massive blind spot. And let's be clear, this isn't some temporary bug that's going to get fixed. This is the new normal. It's a permanent feature of the internet. And what that creates is a structural bias. It means your ad platforms are making decisions based on a skewed, incomplete picture of reality. They're learning from only the data they happen to see, not the full story. So what's the real-world consequence of this? It's huge. The AI that's buying your ads, it isn't actually getting smarter at finding your best customers. No way. It's just getting really, really good at finding people who are easy to track, people who don't use ad blockers or are on certain browsers. Think about that. You're training your entire budget on trackability, not profitability. Okay, so if that whole data loss problem wasn't bad enough, there's a second massive wave of disruption hitting right now. The very nature of who or what your buyer is. Well, it's changing, and they are becoming completely invisible to your current setup. Now check this out. This comes from Gartner, and it's a mind blower. By 2028, which is right around the corner, they predict that 90% of B2B buying will be handled by AI agents. We're talking trillions of dollars in spending, flowing through automated systems that do all the research. And here's the crucial point. This AI buyer has no pixel. They don't click ads, they don't fill out forms. They are, for all intents and purposes, a ghost in your system. These AI agents just scrape your website, read your content, and evaluate your company, all without leaving any of those little digital breadcrumbs your entire marketing model relies on. So what do? Your data is collapsing and your future buyers are invisible. The answer, as you might have guessed, is not a better dashboard. It's a completely different way of thinking. It's a whole new architecture, and it's called the Sovereign Revenue Stack. Okay, let's define this. A Sovereign Revenue Stack is an owned data model. The key words here are owned and control. Think about it like this. For years, we've been renting our data insights from ad platforms. This is about building your own system. It's about taking back control and using your own first-party data, the real truth, to drive your decisions. All right, let's pop the hood and see how this thing is built. It's got 4 key parts. First, you have the sensor. This is GA4, but running server-side. This is so important because it moves tracking off the user's browser and onto your server. That's how you recapture that 30–40% of data that was just vanishing. Next, you have the truth source. This is your CRM, like HubSpot. This is where the real story is told. Actual closed deals, not just some vanity click. Then you need the brain. This is a data warehouse, something like BigQuery, that pulls everything together, the sensor data and the truth data, to map out the entire customer journey. And finally, you have the interface, like Looker Studio. This is where you actually see the complete, truthful picture so you can make smart decisions. But here's the magic. These pieces don't just sit there to create a fancy report you look at once a month. No. Their real power is that they create a dynamic, living feedback system. It's about actively teaching your ad platforms what a real customer looks like instead of just letting them guess. This turns your measurement from a passive, backward-looking thing into an active, forward-looking optimization engine. So here's how that loop works in practice. It's actually pretty simple. A deal closes in your CRM. Boom, someone signs on the dotted line. An API automatically sends that truth signal, the signal that says, hey, we just made real money here, directly back to Google Ads or Facebook.
the platform's AI gets this incredibly high-quality piece of information and immediately starts getting smarter, optimizing to find more people just like that real paying customer. And the results of this are pretty incredible. We're seeing companies that do this get a 15 to 20% drop in their customer acquisition cost. And why does that happen? It's simple. The ad algorithms finally have the right information. They stop wasting your money chasing cheap, spammy leads and start hunting for the kind of people who actually turn into revenue. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds really complicated and expensive, but it's actually a very achievable project. There's a clear, phased roadmap to get this whole thing built and running in about 90 days. It really breaks down into 3 simple steps. The first 30 days are all about identity. That means connecting the dots between all those anonymous website visitors and the actual people in your CRM. The next 30 days are focused on feedback. This is where you build that critical automated loop that sends the truth back to the ad platforms. And the final 30 days, that's for modeling. You bring all the data together to build that single source of truth for your revenue. So after all this work, what's the real payoff? Again, it's not just a better report. It's about a fundamental transformation. It's about the quality and, more importantly, the confidence you have when you make big decisions.
This really sums up the whole mindset shift. In the old system, you're stuck asking these small, tactical questions like, which ad got the click? Your big metric is cost per lead. You're basically just reporting on what already happened. In the new system, you get to ask big, strategic questions like, which entire journey created the most value? Your metric becomes something powerful, like revenue per session. You stop reporting on the past and you start modeling the future. Look, the goal here isn't to chase some impossible dream of pixel-perfect attribution. That's a myth. It doesn't exist anymore. The real goal is something much more valuable: directionally correct confidence. It means having enough clear, truthful data that you can make big budget decisions decisively, instead of always feeling like you're on the defensive.
And that's really the bottom line, isn't it? It's about building a system so you can make revenue decisions based on the truth. A real closed deal in your CRM. Not just on a weak proxy like a form fill, which, let's be honest, tells you almost nothing about real business value. So, we're going to end right back where we started. Your system, the one you're using right this second, is optimizing for something. It's training your ad algorithms every single day. So the question you need to walk away from this with is simple. Is it being trained on the right signal? Is your system truly optimizing for revenue,